Hello, welcome to my corner of the internet. My name is Fats, and I have a ginormous haul, book stack, book plans for you. Now, before we enter into this stack, I kind of want to just kind of chat about where my mindset is, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, what's going on, because I really feel like I have such a good stack. There's a lot of books in front of me. I have a lot because I never know how many I'm going to DNF, how many I'm not going to enjoy, how many I'm going to give up on, how many aren't going to quite grab me. So I always over grab, and then later I'm just overwhelmed by how many books I have. Now, how am I feeling? How am I doing? What has inspired me to grab these books? When I started booktube just a year ago, I've been on booktube exactly a year now, I was working to discover my taste. And I feel like this past year has been so good for me because I've experimented, I've tried, I've failed, I've been upset, I've gotten into a lot of different discussions. And I feel like I've really discovered myself not only as a reader, but as a book critic, as somebody who uses books as a way of discussion and critique and forwarding myself and understanding the writing process. And just me as somebody who loves to read. I read with the intent of gaining more thoughts, looking into somebody else's mind, and using books as a step for discussion. I also use books as a step for just silly little fun. You'll see that with every single monster romance that I bring to you. But in that, I have spent the last season, you could tell from my last book stack, I will link it above if you just like hauls and TBRs. But I went into that one still in a bit of a discovery phase, I would say. But this stack, my winter reading plans, I want to get back to things that I love, get back to things that I, in this past year, have found that interest me and have found that resonate with me in an exciting way. And this stack is very me motivated, very me understanding. And that doesn't mean I'm going to get more 5 stars. It just means that I've kind of picked and chosen in the realms that I know that I like, rather than specifically stepping out into realms that I don't usually like. So, with all that said, before I get into all of these books, we're going to start with the roast video of the season. Now, I am crossing my fingers that I can get this roast video to you by January. When you see what books I have chosen for this roast, you'll understand why I'm pushing it off so much. There is also so much discourse on Murakami, to where the research that I'm going to put into this, the amount of time that I want to take into this, I don't want to rush myself. So let's say late January, early February, if I fall into a research hole. I also don't want to rush these reads. I do own all of them, so I'm hoping that I can mark some more passages for you, break down some more passages, break down some scenes, because the comments that we got in that vote, I want to give Murakami more attention than I even gave Rooney. So I hope you like long roast videos, because I imagine this one's going to be pretty long. And I want to put forth the time that is necessary to give this author the respect that he is due. Now, the reading list. I don't know much about these books. I'm so sorry. If you want to know more about these books, please look to Goodreads. I like to go into these reviews and these roasts with no prior knowledge, no synopses, not looking to Goodreads, not looking at ratings. There is one book in here that is slightly informed. The rest I just grabbed. I asked my bookstore what are ones that are bought more often, just so that I can be a part of the discussion. But otherwise, I am going into these blind. The one that is informed, though, is 1Q84. Now, let me tell you why this is such a wild book for me to read. Now, rumor has it that Murakami is a bit of a misogynist. And if you look into what books of his are the most misogynistic, 1Q84 is top of that list. People are saying that 1Q84, when you talk about Murakami and misogyny and him and how he writes women, this is at the center of that discussion. I think this is funny because if you'll notice, this is a used book. This book was gifted to me by a man. Like, on a second date. I just never got to it. But now that I'm looking into it, I'm so interested in what was gifted to me by a man romantically interested in me. Purr. The rest, I don't know anything about, but if you would like to come into my Murakami roast having read a book or being able to like call out and discuss, here's what we're reading. For my short story collection, I have The Elephant Vanishes. I hear that Murakami really plays to this line of like surrealism, playing into the mundane and also what exists at the edge of your believability and really intertwining those two things together. And I hear that his short story collection has its own bit of a cult following. So The Elephant Vanishes is the short story collection that I chose for this video. Sputnik Sweetheart is a story of yearning, of expectations, of not meeting expectations, of not feeling validated. Norwegian Wood is a story of grief and friendship. And then After Dark is a story of coming into yourself or just kind of resonating and sitting within your own self-questioning. This one is the POV of a woman. Our FMC, the narrator that we exist with, is a female college student. So again, in this discussion of, is this man a misogynist? I did think it would be interesting to get different viewpoints of relationships as well as who my narrators are. So I can kind of break that down, see how he's doing it. Just so you can get a look into how I choose books for these videos. I do what I can to stay uninformed and go into these blind while also getting a mix of narrators, of viewpoints, of themes. So try to get a good collection of themes with this one. Now, to my subscriber recommendations, I have 4 this month. My first subscriber recommendation is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Reid. Now, this is what I mean by getting back into the books that I was super interested in, the things that I love, and that is weird lit. The realm of China Mieva, Jeff Vandermeer, and Reid. I had read Foe when I first started this channel, and it really opened my mind up to science fiction, but more in like a speculative sense. So that's where I'm getting this. And this is a story of 2 friends on a road trip who stop at a deserted and abandoned high school. Some events happen, and one of the friends leaves the second behind and continues without them. I don't know what's going on. Reid writes this, has this way of writing domestic speculative fiction from what I've seen so far, while also bringing in small details that make you feel so uncomfortable. My other subscriber rec, I got 2 books because I could not remember for the life of me which Eliza Clark has been recommended to me. So I have both. Penance is here with me right now. This is a story of a reporter trying to get to the bottom of the death of a young girl who was set on fire by 3 other girls. And the other Eliza Clark that I have is Boy Parts, which is a story of a woman who loves taking photos of men in scandalous poses, scantily clad, and her obsession with her friend and her partner, as well as these men that she photographs. I personally love stories of obsession, and I also love stories where women kind of put an eye to true crime. So both of these sound kind of up my alley. I don't think I've ever gotten a bad subscriber rack. You guys know my taste better than I know my taste, so I trust those. The last of my subscriber recs is actually one that I put on hold on Libby because the library hold list was absolutely ridiculous for this book. And with Libby, I am about 8 weeks out from receiving this book, and that is God of the Woods. I am also approaching this one with little to no information because I hear that it's horror, mystery, family saga, so I really want to go into this one without anything spoiled. I find that sometimes the synopsis gives you a little bit too much of a book sometimes, and I really want to experience this one. This one has made its rounds around BookTube. I do not think it is one that was very popular on Book Talk, but this has definitely made its rounds on BookTube, and I think it's one of those ones that lives up to the hype, so I'm excited to get to God of the Woods. Next, I have 2 books that fall into my queer literary fiction genre. I will not be doing a dedicated video, but I did want to include some books just so that you can get some queer literary fic recs that I hunted down in case you're interested. I'll give you my thoughts on them when I get to them. One of those is Small Beauty. Now, this one is a story of a girl who loses her cousin and she escapes the big city in order to move into his now empty home and coming to understand the people she's left behind, the people she's met along the way, family members that she didn't extend as much empathy towards at first, and this grieving and also giving so much love to those you have lost and have in your future. I also have Swimming in the Dark. Now, this is one of those books about a love between 2 boys that cannot be. And after I read, there's a book that I read last year, I'll put the cover on the screen, that absolutely broke me. Very similar themes. This queer love of 2 people who cannot be brought together. And this one's a queer love of 2 people on opposite ends of politics, of opposite ends of 2 parties at war. And I know it's not long. I know this is going to hurt me. I know it's going to hurt me. But sometimes, like, I pick up books and I'm like, this is going to be one of those good cries. Next, I have An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. This is a story of a girl who gets one of those secret invitations to a secret academy where they teach people who have powers of deceit and cunning, and her power is that of persuasion. So she's super powerful. They're training her. It's a big book. I'm sure something happens at the school. I'm sure there's some big plot, something that occurs. Now, this book comes from my dissatisfaction with a lot of modern fantasy. A lot of fantasy that I've been reading, my biggest complaint is the author didn't care about the world. The author didn't build the world. The author didn't build these characters. I have flat secondary characters. I don't even have a tertiary character. I feel like a lot of fantasy throws me into the conflict on page 3 rather than giving me some build, some world building, some town building, some character building. A lot of stories, you shouldn't get the main problem of the story on page 2. And I feel like so many books do that. My first example that I can think off the top of my head is the Wren and the Holly Library. You find out about this spear and all the problems in the first chapter. They pose to you the end goal in the first chapter, and then you go through 400 pages to reach that goal that you just found out about. So you don't know these characters. You're given a goal. And I personally don't like that. I'm starting to read books that I feel fall more into the high fantasy or epic high fantasy world so that I can get what I feel is lacking from so many of these books. And one of them is The Jasmine Throne. This story is inspired by Indian folklore and Indian tradition as a captive Indian princess and her maidservant who is in possession of some magic that she shouldn't have. These two go on a adventure to stop the princess's evil brother who is in power. This is a hefty boy. I'm excited. I don't think I've read anything that plays into Indian folklore and Indian culture. That's something that I don't know much about, so I'm excited to see how this world is built. This next book is a book that I saw just kind of around my local bookstore. It was on an end stack. I thought the cover was kind of cool. And the marketing of this one also got me. This is marketed as The Godfather meets Game of Thrones with a small sprinkling of fantasy on top. Next, I have The Need by Helen Phillips. I'm sure you've noticed I have a lot of very short books. I love a good short book. The ones that just come to you exactly what they want to give you, and also draft a story and characters in such a punchy, resonating way. So I do have quite a few short books. I don't think I've read good short books in a minute, so I do have a lot in this stack. The Need is a domestic science fiction thriller where a mother and her two kids are staying alone in a home, and the mother hears some steps in the living room. And I think it gives invasion horror with a little bit of a science fiction twist. Another thing that I absolutely love is I do love cult horror. Now, The Black Sheep is a story of a girl who lived within this religious commune, but she got out of it. And a few years later, she is invited into her cousin's wedding. And she's coming back to this commune for this wedding. And there's some uncovering of family secrets. There's also an uncovering of her history and getting more into this religious cult. I have not heard good things about this one. I have not. I just really like the cover and I like cult horror. So I'm kind of hoping that it's one of those ones where most people hate it, but I happen to love it. I also like the pink, so the pink kind of has me sold. Another book in an effort to get better characters, better worlds, and better stories. I have The Bonesmith. This is a YA fantasy in a world of ghost killing and ghost killers. Our main character is actually a disgraced ghost killer, a disgraced person who wanted to become part of the major guard. Well, in order to kind of shirk this disgrace and get in a better standing, she takes on a task of rescuing a captured prince from a very dangerous realm. I'm not entirely sure, but I love this like bad A warrior girl having to rescue the prince. I love that like gender swap feel. I love this aspect of ghost killing guards in a ghost realm. I also think this cover is so cool. I'll blow up a picture of the cover on the screen so you can see it a little bit better. But it just looks so interesting. Big fan. Love that for us. Let me scoot this closer to me. I shouldn't keep building this one. Let me start another pile right here. I have Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is a science fiction horror of people coming across an abandoned spaceship. It's supposed to give like Titanic science fiction horror, which I think is so cool. And then I have House of Salt and Sorrows. This is a story of 10 sisters living within this manor, and 4 sisters pass for different reasons. And one sister is having all of these ghostly visions, a lot of premonitions, and it's coming up that the way that these other sisters have passed might not be the accidents that they thought it was. Now, this next one is advertised as a genre blending novel where a woman and her husband and I believe child come to her childhood home, in which she encounters her sister, who is obsessed with a virtual reality game. And there's also some missing people in the town. It's just one of those kind of a literary science fiction horror, a little bit of everything within one novel, but also so short. So it almost feels like too much is being taken on, but I think I'll like it. The way that the sister is obsessed with the virtual reality game was kind of what grabbed me. I don't think I've read many books where that is part of the horror aspect. The Luminous Dead is another science fiction. As you can see, I have some science fiction. When I said that I'm getting back into things that I had fallen in love with this year, I discovered science fiction this year, and I hadn't read any in my last act. So this one is a setup of a caver and her guide. Of course, you're on this remote planet, and the guide having some ulterior motives, the caver not knowing what she's doing there, getting trapped down there, being forced. It's just two characters in this entire book, though. So I think that could bother me, the fact that there's only two characters and that's all I'm getting. So I'm getting like some flashbacks or something. But it's one of those, the guide is keeping things from her. What is happening here? What is going on? I'm in a scary cave system on a planet. Let me tell you something. In the world of scary things, attics, basements, abandoned forests, cemeteries, I'm going to push caves so far to the top of my list because caves scare the life out of me. Am I going into an attic or a basement anytime soon? No, I'm not. However, there's a higher chance that I would go grab spare light bulbs out of the attic than you'll ever find me going into an undiscovered cave system. There's no reality, especially if there's like the cave systems where you have to like crawl through and like hold your breath because you can't breathe it. So there is no reality where you'll see me ever in a cave system. I might not even go on a tour in caves because that's one of those things that freaks me out. A book on my high fantasy list that I don't know anything about and I want to go into blind is The Assassin's Apprentice, the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. When you talk epic fantasy, when you talk epic high fantasy and world building and character building, I hear people talk about this one. I didn't want to look into it. I really want to go into this, meet my characters, meet my story so blind, because Robin Hobb has written within this world over and over and over. I think there's like 5 separate trilogies set in one world. So I'm kind of excited to fall into this. I get overwhelmed by really long series, but I think the fact that there's lots of different trilogies set in a world that I'm like excited to come back to, I might love that. This one is personally owned by me. While we're on the topic of books that I've heard amazing things about and I want to go into blind in the realm of epic high fantasy, world building, character building, I have The Shadow of the Gods. Now this one is built on Norse mythology. The dragon got me. I don't think, like, I love dragons. I've said it before. Dragons are my favorite of the mythical beings. And the dragons that I've been reading are very silly little, like Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing gave me the same vibes of How to Train Your Dragon. I wasn't really hyped up about those dragons. They were cute in my head. This is not a cute dragon. I am very excited for an adventure from just this cover alone. I believe this one is a trilogy, and I do think the 3rd book just came out. I hope I love it. Another tome. There's not really any in between this month. They're either a little book or big book. You already know I'm finishing the Cruel Prince trilogy. You know it. I know it. I'm so excited for it. I have the 2nd and 3rd book. The way I sprinted to the library when they came in at this moment of me filming this, I still have 2 books to finish from my fall stack. So I'm trying to finish those, but I'm so excited about everything I have in front of me. And these are big on that list of I'm excited about. I have a book that I don't know much about because I just saw it sitting on a library shelf when I was going to pick up Holds. Now, this is called The Witness for the Dead by Catherine Addison. And it says it's in the world of the Goblin Emperor. I didn't look up what this book is about because I didn't notice that it said that in the world of the Goblin Emperor until I got home. So I just put the Goblin Emperor on hold on Libby. Don't know anything about it. I just thought it was kind of pretty, thought it was kind of cool. It's another little book. We are down to a choice that I have for the covers. Now I'll hold this up just so you can see that I have one of them. The second one is On the Way. Or it's currently at the library and I need to pick it up at some point. But Dark Rise and Dark Air, The Duology by C.S. Pacat. Now I'm going to set this down and I'm just going to take the time to put both of the covers on the screen. I don't know anything about these books. I don't need to know anything about these books. I will be reading them. These covers have me in a chokehold. They better be good. Now, there are a few books, like I said, I have to pick up from the library because I don't currently have them with me. One of those is The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. This is a story of a small town called Hemlock Falls in which you cannot get in or out of the town. And the town itself has a wood around it that just might eat you if you try to escape it. One of our main characters wants to be a part of an order that protects the town from the monsters and the beasties that come out of the forest. And in order to get help getting into this order, our FMC asks her ex-best friend and resident bad boy, who is the most well-known and probably the best pick for the order, asks him for some help training. Just the thought of this has me kicking my feet. It really does. I don't care what you say. Just the thought of it. That one is a YA fantasy. Then the other book that I don't have yet is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. Now, this is a story of colonialism, of war, of pain, of fighting, because there is a girl who was stolen at birth and raised to kill. And it's a self-reflection and a discovery of what it means to be raised to kill those that live in the place that you're from, and how this character grows into regrets and grows into possibly a rebellious effort, and what it looks like to deal with the pain of being raised in that way. In a sense, that one is also a epic high fantasy choice. The last books that I have are books that I own so that I can make it through my own personal copy. First, my nonfiction choices of the month. My first nonfiction choice is Underland. And Underland, let me just read the back because I didn't know how to describe it in my own words. Robert Macfarlane delivers an epic exploration of the Earth's underworlds as they exist in myth, literature, memory, and the land itself. Traveling through the dizzying expanse of geologic time from prehistoric art in Norwegian sea caves to the blue depths of the Greenland ice cap to a deep sunk hiding place where nuclear waste will be stored for 100,000 years to come. Underland takes us on an extraordinary journey into our relationship with darkness, burial, and what lies beneath the surface of both place and mind. That is Underland. This is because I've been on a kick with nature nonfiction, eco nonfiction. This is that. The other nonfiction let me not hurt myself. The other nonfiction choice that I have this month is The Little Devil in America by Hanif Abdurraqib. This is a story about Black performance in America and what it means for America to be built on Black performance, not just in your everyday life and how we carry ourselves every day, but how the Black body and how you are taken in by an outside audience and what it means to have an audience and what that looks like affects the America as we see it, affects Black psyche. Hanif Abdurraqib is the kind of nonfiction writer that is very memoir-esque. So there's a lot of personal feeling, a lot of personal reflection in his books that I love. And I don't think I've read anything on the concept of Black performance outside of like Minstrel and outside of Uncle Tom and what that looks like. And I think this modernizes it and plays to the conversation a bit more. I have the final and newest book in the Southern Reach series. Vandermeer wrote the fourth book 10 years after the other books, and I got my hands on it, of course. I purchased the hardcover. I love this series. I had to. I really have to be a part of this discussion. I'm also really excited to see how he came back into writing this world, how he came back to these themes and this space as a more developed writer. I then have Carnality. Now, this one got me because of the cover. Again, this cover got me. I'll put it up on the screen so that you can see it a little bit better. Now, this is another one. I'm just going to read the back of the book because there was no way for me to write it down in my own words. Awarded a 3-month stipend to travel and work, a Swedish writer flies to Madrid, where in a bar she meets a man with an extraordinary story to tell. In exchange for somewhere to sleep and to hide out for a few days, he is willing to tell her the whole astonishing tale. What follows is an account of fantastic proportions and ingredients, the existence of shadowy internet TV show and a certain morality clause, a threat to the storyteller's life, a diabolical nun, and the story of a girl with missing left thumb. The tale is also the precursor to a meeting between the writer and the infernal miracle worker Lucia, a meeting that ultimately forces the writer to make a fateful decision about her own inner essence. This is a story about the universal need for spirituality and truth, not to mention a good story set in a seemingly unspiritual, grimy underbelly of society. I don't know what it is, but something about that kind of sang to me. The themes, I think, are what sang to me and how this author is going to approach that. And then finally, I got The Imposium, which, again, just going to read you the inner flap, because when I have one of those books that just feels weird and out of sorts, I don't want you to miss what I know about it. So rather than me even shortening what I know, I'll just give you what I read as well. September 1913, a young Pole suffering from tuberculosis arrives at Wilhelm Oppitz's guest house for gentlemen in the village of Gorbruksdorf, a health resort in the Silesian mountains. Every evening, the residents gather to imbibe the hallucinogenic local liquor and debate the great issues of the day. Monarchy or democracy? Do devils exist? Are women born inferior? War or peace? Meanwhile, disturbing things are happening in the guest house and the surrounding hills. Someone or something seems to be watching, attempting to infiltrate this cloistered world. Little does the newcomer realize, as he tries to unravel both the truths within himself and the mystery of the sinister forces beyond, that they have already chosen their next target. This is one of those. So I got this book because when I had gone back to return Intermezzo, I was returning it, and one of the girls who's always at the desk when I'm there, she was like, yeah, I didn't think you would like this one. This is very out of what you usually grab. And I was like, okay, read me then. Like, I thought that I was a person with many layers and many tastes. And she actually said, this one feels so much more like you. And she was like, this is really big right now. She was like, the writing style. She was like, I feel like this is way more you. And I just took her word for it. So I don't know much about it. I don't know too much. It says a health resort horror story. So it is horror. And I don't think I've purchased much horror. I think what she's seen me purchase there are, I've gotten the Annihilation series from that bookstore, and I've picked up my nonfiction from there. So I don't know what about me screams I would like the Imposium, but that's what my local bookseller recommended me. Now, just to kind of wrap up, just so you know everything I have, I will let you in on what I have on hold on Libby and what's in my phone right now on Libby. But my disclaimer for Libby, if I don't like the person reading the book or the narrator of the book, I stop it. So I don't often let you in on what's in my Libby just because the amount of books that I start and stop on that app is a lot. If I don't like how it's being read, if I don't like how it's put together, if I can't quite see it in my mind and I would prefer to sit with a book, I don't continue. So I do have a lot in here. You're going to get in my business about all the books that I have on Libby right now. But I don't tell you too often what I have in Libby, only because I don't want to let you down on what I might or might not get into. Okay, so this is the app. This is what I have in front of me right now. I'll put it up on the screen so you're looking at what I'm looking at right now. Right now, the screen that we're on are the books that I currently have. Model Home by River Solomon. This is actually, I believe, the last River Solomon that I have to get into before I've read the full collection of their works. A Fate Inked in Blood is definitely a hate read, but it's a 15-hour hate read, so I'm not sure if I'll get through it. It is something that came into BookTube and BookTok. BookTok loved it. BookTube said it was hot fire garbage. So I came into this just wanting to kind of hate read something. That one is most likely one of the ones that I will DNF. I'm currently reading The Fireborn Blade, and it is so good. I'm loving everything that is happening there. And it's so short. I think in print form, it's 190 pages or something like that, which is so infuriating because it is so good. King of Thorns is the second book to the Prince of Thorns, a book that made it into my favorites of November. Blood Like Magic is a subscriber rec. Thank you so much. I love you so much. I will be getting to that. What Monstrous Gods is a BookTok book. The Goblin Emperor is the book that I said that I would try to get to so that I could read Witness for the Dead. The Bone Shard Daughter, The City of Dusk. Those are both books that I grabbed while I was walking through the bookstore, and they were put on like a top books sold in fantasy this past month. So I immediately grabbed those. They were immediately available, so I don't know if I'll get to them or if I'll have to renew, give them back or try again, but those just exist because I saw them. Now, Calamity and Fiasco are science fiction romances? Romances set in space? Look at these covers. Are we not just wildly obsessed with this? These have to be good. I refuse a world in which these two aren't good. So those are the books that are currently in my possession. My holds, Empire of the Vampire. You remember when I said that I was getting back into the things that I loved? I am so excited to get into Empire of the Vampire because Jay Kristoff made it into my favorites so many times at the beginning of the year. Briefly Very Beautiful is a literary science fiction horror. Ebony Gate is epic high fantasy. Those Beyond the Wall is epic high fantasy. A Crane Among Wolves is a book that I heard in passing, and I can't remember if I heard great things about it or bad things about it, so I put it on hold. An Ember in the Ashes is my attempt into getting into a series that I love because Air recently came out, and I heard some people upset because Air is set in the same world as Ember in the Ashes, and people felt like it spoiled Ember in the Ashes, and it wasn't that clear that Air was going to be set in the same world. A Letter to the Luminous Deep. I've been on hold for this book for 3 months. I've been on hold for this book for 3 months, and I'm finally near the end. Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson was recommended to me by somebody on here. There's that God of the Woods. The Hurricane Wars is when I was talking to people about how I need a fantasy that I love with the world built properly. The Hurricane Wars was recommended to me. Here's the second book of Summon to the Wilds. This is the second book of a series that made it to my favorites again, that I loved. So hilarious, so funny. Now, no kissing has happened yet, which I'm so upset about. So I'm hoping that I get more of that. The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig was a pickup because I saw it at a local bookstore. Put it on hold. To Shape a Dragon's Breath is a bookstore choice as well. Celestial Monsters is the second book of the Sunbearer Trials duology. Greta and Valden is talked about by the literary girls right now, so I have it. When the Moon Hatched, another one that I can't remember if it is something people are excited about or annoyed by. Eruption, I don't know. It's in the horror category for some reason. It's like a volcano novel. Interested. Jennifer Lynn Barnes wrote a series, the games, the something games. I can't remember. Wicked Games? Jennifer Lynn Barnes wrote another series that I kind of started, but I did like, but I wasn't interested enough to want to continue. I hear The Naturals is her debut series, but also her best and her most popular. Station 11. As somebody who likes speculative, weird science fiction, I've been told that I can't be that girl and not have read Station 11. And then A Crown of Ivy and Glass, a bookstore pickup. That is the full list of the books that I have within my Libby. I'm adding it to my TBR just because you might see it from me. You might not see it from me. A lot of books that you see on my faves are like a secret Libby edition. I'm always adding books to my Libby. I'm always picking up things from the library. I won't be picking up any more physical books from the library because this is more than enough, especially with the fact that I just told you there are about 4 more books at the library that I need to go pick up the next time I'm there. I'm excited. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I think I've got a really good stack ahead of me. I think I have a good season of reading ahead of me. I have some big books. I'm a little intimidated by them, to be perfectly honest. I haven't read a big book in a minute, so I gotta dust off those chops, but I think it's a good balance because I have a lot of little guys, a lot of big guys. And I have a mix of everything. I've got horror, I've got nonfiction, I've got fantasy, I've got science fiction, I've got weird lit, I've got a little bit of everything that I do love. Please let me know if you've read any of these. Please let me know if you're excited for any of these. As always, thank you so much to the subscribers that interact and talk and hang out with me. I do pay attention to your recommendations. I do lose track of them sometimes, but I do try to keep track of all of your recommendations so I can get to them. None of you have missed. You guys have such great book taste, and I'm always so thankful for every single one of the recommendations. Just to say it one more time, Murakami Roast should be coming out end of January, beginning of February. I'm excited for that one. Please read along if there are any of those books that you find yourself wanting to come into, just so you can participate a bit more in that roast. Or don't. I'm doing the reading for you. I spoil them for you. I'm going to tell you all about them, so you really don't have to. I'll be reading you sections. I'll be giving you bits. I'll be telling you about the author. So I'm excited for the season that we have in front of us. I'm excited for this stack that we have in front of us. Please let me know if you have any books that you're coming into, any books on your TBR that you're excited about, anything here that you're excited about and you would love for me to get to. I can try to pace my vlogs so that I put any books that you are super excited about in a vlog so you can get live reactions to that. Let me know. Thank you for hanging out as always, and I will talk to you next time.